Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of Business Innovators Radio. I'm your host, Marco Salinas, and with me today I have a very special guest, Mr. Tim Knifton with ITEX Barter Brokers. We are doing another special episode of our Business Networking Influencers podcast, highlighting fellow BNI members. And Tim is a BNI member here in San Antonio, as well as a ITEX franchisee in several different cities. Tim, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you, Marco.
So let's dive right in here, Tim. And I want to know a little bit more about ITEX. So can you tell us a little bit more about what ITEX is, how it works, and how you're helping your members?
Yeah, so ITEX is North America's largest barter marketplace. So we have 12,000 business owners that we assist in a day-to-day business, get new clients, trade out excess inventory or unused hours for employees or, excess capacity for their business. And then we turn that into additional cash flow or investments.
I like it. Very cool. Very interesting. Could you explain to us what are specifically some of the benefits or advantages of signing up with a barter membership or barter broker? You're the broker, so it's more of just signing up for an actual barter marketplace. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people trade on their own or barter on their own. So the website guy is trying to trade with his landscaper a $10,000 website. Well, if you think about it, how many times does that landscaper have to come out, mow the website designer's lawn, and then stay in business so he can keep doing it? So what happens when the website guy does a direct trade with the landscape guy says, man, I'm going to be out here for the next 3 years. Maybe I'm going to skip a couple weeks, or he goes out of business, or he's like, well, we're doing a direct trade and he doesn't even know the value of this guy's websites. Even though this guy's charging all his other clients $10,000 cash, he thinks the website's free like Wix. So he does it for a month and then stops showing up. So we remove the irritants or problems with direct trade by having a marketplace. Everybody gets paid up front. And even if someone goes out of business, you keep that barter value in your barter marketplace account, and you can use that for years to come or turn that into something the landscaper guy can't even give you.
Very, very cool. Very interesting. So we've got accountability. There's tracking, right? You're able to keep everything tracked. You're able to keep both parties honest because, again, everything is all tied in with your marketplace, right? And then, like you said, even if even if the business was to somehow dissolve, your barter dollars don't, right? Those are still there. Those are still valuable. So, yeah, really, really cool. Really good, important points of distinction that you're making there. What about as far as opportunities to grow your bottom line with this thing? What have others seen in terms of percentages of business growth or cash flow?
Yeah, so when new members come in, our first year target is just 5% of their total revenue. We're going to increase that using barter. They're just getting into the marketplace. They're still learning who they can use to swap out their business expenses and have that 5% extra cash flow every month. For more seasoned members, I've seen them go all the way up to 10 to 20% of their total business. And then they already know how they're going to spend it. They're putting that into an investment. They're potentially buying high-end jewelry, or they're buying boats. Right now we have a $15,000 sailboat for sale in San Francisco on our barter marketplace.
Wow.
We're building a house on barter. Now, again, you can't do 100% on barter. You still got to buy wood. You still got to buy concrete. There's still certain things that, due to no excess capacity, you're not going to find on a barter marketplace.
Sure.
But being able to reduce the overall cost of building a house by 33 to 50% is an amazing win in this tough real estate market.
That's very cool, Tim. What about taxes? I think a lot of people see bartering as some sort of a way to get around that, but I've been alive long enough to know that that's usually not how things work. So Uncle Sam always wants his cut and is always going to get his cut. So how does that work? If I'm part of your marketplace, am I still paying taxes on the barter?
Yeah, and there's some huge advantages to having it tracked and reported to the IRS, because not only can you get deductions for your taxes, if you're having a bad year and not making a lot of money, you can just really increase your ITEX barter account greatly. We report that to the IRS. You don't pay hardly any taxes on it. Again, talk to your CPA first, but make sure if you're not making money that year, you can really plus up your barter account.
Sure.
And then when you're having a phenomenal year, you can write those business expenses off. You can donate that to a nonprofit, and all that money that you already paid your low taxes or no taxes on is now saving you 20, 30, 40% of your cash. So it's a huge advantage to being reported to the IRS. In 1982, Reagan actually codified the reporting for barter marketplaces, and that's actually why the ITEX Corporation was even set up, is to make it easy for barter marketplaces to provide those 1099-Bs to everybody in a barter marketplace.
Got it. Yeah, really interesting. Okay. What about, let's talk a little bit about myths and misconceptions that are out there. I think, at least for myself, the barter thing has not been at the forefront of my mind. I don't hear much about it. I didn't even know that these marketplaces really existed prior to meeting you. But it turns out that it's kind of a thriving little sub environment. But for those that are out of the loop and don't know about this stuff, what are some of the bigger myths out there about bartering or joining a barter marketplace?
Yeah, I'll talk about two myths that I hear on a regular basis. Probably the first myth is that they're going to buy gold or diamond jewelry or something easy to flip for cash, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to buy something for someone else and that they could have easily sold. If you think about gold, for example, if you have gold coins, you can walk into any pawn shop and walk out with cash. So you're not going to find that on barter. And a lot of people hope they're going to find like that diamond in the rough, that the immediate value is almost equal to it. Now, there are options like our investment deals that we put together on barter where you can convert it. But generally, that's kind of a myth that people come in and think it's just as easy to convert barter dollars straight to cash without actually applying it to a business expense like a website designer or a CPA or a dental office visit.
I see.
Probably the second myth that I hear on a regular basis is that, they got to trade in their local area and that they don't have to pay attention. They'll just be able to, barter just in their local area. We're a national marketplace, and a lot of people forget that, we're not just in the city they're operating in. We're bringing them business nationwide, and they're able to spend it nationwide with any of our 12,000 business owners that are taking it.
That is really cool, man. I appreciate you clearing up some of those things. I think some people may have those thoughts in their mind and might be apprehensive about doing this due to some of those myths or misconceptions. Now, that kind of segues into my next question, which is that kind of ties in also with maybe some fears that people may also have about it. What are some common fears that maybe you've heard from current members that they might have had before they jumped in that they ended up finding out were really not issues after all, especially after they saw how you guys do things?
Yeah, probably the biggest fear is they're going to have to go find that one person on barter on their own. We have trade directors. They're almost like personal shoppers in our barter marketplace that work with every member. We get a budget from them so that when they come in, we've already identified 2 or 3 business expenses so that when they get the barter sales done, they can immediately turn around and spend that with a current member to save cash and increase their cash flow almost right away.
I see. I think another thing too that's really worth mentioning is that some people might think that this is kind of and you kind of alluded to this, but that this is kind of a somewhat new thing maybe. How long has ITEX actually been around?
So we're been around since 1982, and Reagan passed his law to require barter marketplaces to report to the IRS, and we're publicly traded. So we're publicly audited by an independent CPA firm every year to stay above board.
Wow, didn't know that. Very interesting. So this is not something that just recently popped up. This is not a company or a business that is in any way, shape, or form new. It's a 40-year-old business. It's a 40-year-old company. And I think if you guys were doing things kind of weird or kind of shady or any of that, I don't think it would have lasted 40 years.
No.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Very, very good sign. Tell me a little bit about, Tim, maybe a couple of examples of maybe like a case study or two of people that actually joined, came in and started offering their services in your barter marketplace in ITEX, and then very specific examples of how much or specifically what they did to grow their business and what type of businesses those were.
Yeah, so the first case study that I have is a business coach, A-Team Business Coaching. They received $41,355 in sales in their first 3 years in ITEX.
3 years.
Three years. And they resulted in $40,000 in sales. They brought on 10 new clients just because they were part of the marketplace. And I think his key to success was the personal connection he had working with a trade director or personal shopper to help make sure that we got the word out about his business. Business coaches are always trying to fill their schedule. They always have that excess capacity of a couple appointments.
Yep.
So it was a huge win for him by coming into the marketplace, getting those new clients. And then because he worked with them, he's getting word of mouth with other business owners that they know in their industries. Second case study I can talk about is another professional. We had a sales coach join over this last summer. We increased his total business clients by 40% in less than 6 months.
Wow.
He added almost 20 clients in less than 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
Wow, yeah, that's lightning fast.
And part of those clients, because he was working with us, heard it from somebody in ITEX, and then they weren't in ITEX. They couldn't join because their business wasn't a fit for them at the moment.
Yep.
And they paid him cash.
Very
So
nice.
it was just word of mouth, just because he got the ITEX business in,
Sure.
performed exceptionally well,
Sure.
and then leveraged that to get new cash clients in the door.
That is incredible. And that was another thing that I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to know, like, if you are part of the ITEX membership and you're part of that marketplace and you acquire a new customer in there, are you allowed to turn that into a non barter dollar eventually, in that, with that same relationship? Can that eventually turn into real dollars afterwards?
Yeah. So a lot of times when a business is signed up with you on barter dollars, they're going to want to continue to pay you on barter dollars.
Sure.
But I'll tell you what happens. Sometimes they stop selling their items on barter, and then they end up still having a bill with you, and they just end up paying you cash.
I see.
Sometimes their business sells. Our average client stays with us for over 5 years as a member. But guess what happens when that business sells to a bigger client or a bigger company?
Sure.
They're going to actually probably keep using you. I've had that happen quite a few times where they signed up with me on barter.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they get bought out by another company, and then that company is not on barter, so they just keep paying the invoice on cash.
Wow. Very cool. So the business itself has some real longevity opportunities here, even through the barter system, even through the marketplace.
Absolutely. If you perform well when you do barter work, the word gets out with their friends, their other industry professionals. They're going to be talking about you, and you always have the chance of a buyout, and then the new company comes in and just keeps you as the vendor, and you get paid in cash.
There you go. I love it. Great info. Tim, let's transition to a different direction here. I want to know a little bit more about you and your backstory. Can you share with us what inspired you to become a barter broker? How did you discover this? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, so I was part of Business Network International, and someone handed me an ITEX check, which said not valid at the bank. And they paid their Business Network International B&I dues using ITEX check. And I'm like, what's this? And he's like, well, turn it into this person, and they're going to cover my fees. I'm like, wow, that's a great deal. So I could barter for something I was paying cash for every year.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, this totally makes sense. So I joined, and then I found out I always had trouble making sales. I did a lot of small business IT jobs for businesses. And, in December, they're going on vacation. They don't want their computer fixed. They're not doing any large projects. They're focused on the holidays.
Yeah.
So I found out I could trade out a ton of labor in December when things were super slow for my IT company, have extra barter dollars that would save me cash and make the holidays better every year.
I see.
So I loved it. And then I was given the opportunity to buy my own franchise and come in. And I signed up 50 members in my first 9 months. We hit over 600 now in less than 3 years as a barter franchise.
Okay, that's really cool. And what about, I have another question for you, Tim. What is do you know what your percentage is of new members that have joined your barter marketplace that came from a BNI group or BNI membership?
Yeah, so my first year signing up new members, when I signed up 50 new members, I would say 95% of those were BNI referrals or a BNI member themselves. And then probably at this point now, I would say at least 75% of the new members I've signed up for my barter marketplace have been a result of BNI or Business Network International.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's pretty significant. Definitely. Staying in line with a little bit more about your background, can you share a lesson that you learned early on? I mean, this could be at any point in your life when you were a child or maybe early in your business career that still impacts the way that you do business today. Lesson learned.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm going to go back to BNI and what I learned there. I'm going to talk about giver's gain. Give first.
There you go.
And someone will eventually reciprocate or pay it forward down the line to you.
Sure.
So no matter what you're doing, you need to give first.
Yeah.
And when that other person's ready, they're going to give back. And maybe it won't be that other person. Maybe they're giving to someone else who then gives back to you. I mean, that's the whole concept of a BNI chapter. There's enough people in that group that everybody gets fed, everybody gets given to. So you're not that one person that's trying to give everything just to one other person and hoping they'll reciprocate. You give to one person, they give to another, they give to another, that person gives back to you. It's almost like the barter marketplace. That's how it works. You barter with one person who barters with someone else, who barters with someone else, who then barters back with you.
Definitely. Which may explain why your BNI people are doing very well in that group, because they've already got this giver's gain mindset. And I do know you personally, Tim, and I can attest to the fact that you really do live that giver's gain principle. You've shown it with me, myself. So there's that third party endorsement in case anybody's wondering if you really mean that or not. That is really cool, Tim. Thank you very much for sharing this information about you and about yourself. So we're going to kind of wrap things up here. What is the most important question that a business owner, a professional service provider, maybe an established business that wants to add, a little bit more to their bottom line should ask themselves if they are considering joining some type of barter marketplace? What's the most important question they should ask?
I would say the most important question they need to ask is if they are pricing their services or products correctly. If you don't have a minimum of 50%, 75%, or I love working with businesses with 100% margins, look at that software company, it's sunk costs, it's already built. Every new sale is 100%. Look at that advertiser. They already printed the magazine. If they don't get that ad on that back page, they still have already paid for it. So those 100% margins are great. But I've worked with some companies and they come in and they sell a lot, but they just didn't have the right pricing for their products and service. They were priced too low, and it made it hard for them to convert to those barter dollars and then convert it back to those business expenses. So make sure you got your pricing right. You got to charge more due to inflation. You got to watch the economy. You got to watch other people in the industry. And if you're priced below 50% of your industry, you're probably in the wrong industry.
Sure. Got you. So key distinction, these business owners really should be high margin.
High margin.
Sure. They can't, operating on a razor thin margin probably just doesn't cut it in a barter marketplace anywhere. Right?
Anywhere. You won't be able to operate, unless it's a sunk cost, you already paid for it, or something that you can't get rid of yourself. we're good at quick liquidations, but again, you got to have those proper pricing for your products or service before you join.
Got you. Tim, how can someone find out more about you as well as ITEX Marketplace and how you might be able to help them?
Yeah, if you want to go to my website, dfw.itex.com, there's a button on it that says Get Started. It doesn't actually create your account, but it'll actually just ping us to reach out to you and help you create that account right away. So if you go to dfw.itex.com, hit Get Started, I'll be reaching out to you shortly to help you find out if barter is actually going to add that 10 to 20% to your bottom line every year.
That is awesome. Tim, thank you very much for all the information that you shared with us today. Very valuable info. Thank you for being a guest today. I think this information will definitely help some folks. Thanks for joining us. That's it, folks, for another episode of Business Networking Influencers Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.